Spoilerin time, or as we like to call it around here, it's Spoilerin time. I'm Tom Merritt, and he's Brian Brushwood.
Hey, man. Dude, I'm ready to dive right in. What do we got on tap? We're going to talk about Archer first, then Marco Polo episode 5 is the big one, and then we're going to follow up on your experience with The Shield. How far along are you now?
Episode 6 of season 4.
Right on.
So let's start off with Archer, the big return. Of course, because of Daesh, which is also called by some people ISIS, Archer has decided to change the name of ISIS, the former agency that Archer worked for, to nothing, at least so far. They just kind of have been contracted by the CIA. They showed the ISIS logo kind of being carried out. But they have returned from exile last year. And the big joke at the beginning is that Pam and Cheryl have redecorated the entire office to be exactly like the old office.
I was disappointed, Tom.
The whole episode or just the bit?
Well, I mean, that bit, because keep in mind also, it's like they made a bold departure last season with the whole Archer Vice thing, embracing this 1980s vibe and becoming drug smugglers. I think that was a really great way. Everything about this episode felt like, I don't know, somebody was just sighing because summer vacation was over and it was time to get back to work, making the same kind of jokes. Now, keep in mind, I only watched this episode by myself, all alone, so it's hard, very rarely do you find yourself guffawing out loud when there's nobody around for that social proof element to come in. But I chuckled a couple of times this episode. It felt just... I don't know, a wee bit predictable. I was kind of disappointed that the plot was taken straight out of a Gilligan's Island episode from 50 years ago. I don't know. It just didn't do it for me. That's not to say that it can't get better. There are characters I was happy to see again, but...
I feel like this happens to us a lot, Brian, where we actually have the same opinion about something, but you decide that that's a disappointment and I decide that that's fine.
I mean,
and I think it's just our own willingness, to what our expectations are or something. Cause I don't disagree with you. It was a perfectly comfortable episode. I got a couple of chuckles out of it. And it was good. It was good to see the team back in their offices, even if there was the hokey joke about we redesigned it.
In exactly the way that allows us to use the previous sets we already drew.
I would say that was the reason, except they actually went to the trouble to create paintings for a fake redesign that impressed her when she initially walked in. But I guess that was fewer frames than actually redoing every angle.
It felt like the show was having a bit of an identity crisis. And for the record, I'm very proud of myself. If you go back in my Twitter feed, I remember the moment ISIS, the Islamic State news story broke out. I was like, hey, what are the odds of, seeing a name change on Archer? And a bunch of people are like, no, they'll just make a joke about how they had it first or whatever. But they didn't. They just sort of, like you said, they just wheeled the logo off. And so now as a result, I don't get it. Who are this gang? They aren't. There was a time we knew what we were watching. We were watching a second-rate, jokey spy organization. Then we watched them realize that they didn't even have a license or whatever to be spies and that they were actually outlaws. So they embraced being an outlaws. Now they work for the CIA, but they don't know and the characters don't know. And again, not that this needs to be high drama and they need to figure this stuff out. It's just that I would appreciate... I think the comedy would be enhanced with more precision, and there's a complete lack of focus. Is this a story about Archer becoming an adult, grappling with the fact that he's now a dad? Is this a story about... I mean, there's...
Whoa. We don't need that.
Well, you need something. You need literally anything to grasp onto, and you don't have it now.
There was no stories about Archer grappling with growth
from
in
the
good
very
days.
From the very first episode, Archer is a show about a son who refuses to grow up and accept his responsibility from his mother. That's the opening joke is about how his tagline is, or his code name is Duchess, and that was the dog's name. And you have the element of his theme of never having been loved and the alcoholism, all of these things.
Yeah,
I mean,
those are the jokes.
They are jokes.
Still the jokes. It sounds like your complaint is that we don't have new jokes.
No,
And we don't have character growth.
we are mushier.
I don't
now.
want character growth from Archer.
We are mushier now on the point or of the underlying currents that make everything funny. Because understand, an undercurrent of drama is what makes things really funny in a good comedy, right? If you look at Arrested Development, part of the reason that David Cross's character is so funny is because he's so ultimately tragic in being a complete and abject failure. Same thing for Michael. Michael's character.
Yeah. No, I get what you're saying, and that's what Archer has been. But it sounded to me like you were wanting him to grow and change into something else.
I just want to know the rules of the game now. They changed the rules last season.
Rules.
No, they're not. Well, okay. You can't dip in the same well. They changed the rules last time, and that's what was exciting about it.
Now they changed them back.
Well, okay.
That's what's bothering you?
To familiar territory. So painfully familiar territory.
I don't think the name change really matters. I mean, there's still a jokey spy organization that now is contracted by the CIA, whatever. The fact that they're not called ISIS is whatever. That I don't think bothers me in the least. But I do see what you're saying about and we're back to normal. To me, that's fine. It was actually good. It was comfortable to see Archer back being Archer with all the same Archerisms. I kind of missed that last season. And I felt like they were trying to build their base by saying, all right, this episode is going to be a classic Archer episode. We're going to hit all of the Archer points to let people know we're back to this. And I'm interested to see if, when they grow from there in the next episodes and start getting into the other characters, now that they've established this base, is it going to be the same old thing all the way through? Or they're like, all right, we've grounded you. Archer's still Archer because we're not going to change him. But here's what's different about this. Or is it just going to be like, hey, you know what? We thought that shtick was pretty good the first 3 seasons, so we're back to it.
Well, yes, everything you said 100% right. All I'm saying, and I'm not saying it as bad or that it's gotten worse or any of those things. I'm just going to say I suspect it would be funnier if I knew specifically what stakes I could latch onto. Like if they had just set up in this first episode, hey, here are the new rules. Last year they're pretending to become cocaine dealers. Here are the new rules is, I don't know, something have to have character growth or penalties for Archer Jr. or whatever. Like that's something I could be like, oh my God, now Archer's really got to grow up this time.
So on the Ghost shows that growth is how you get ants.
That's true. That's fair enough. But
no, I know what you mean about the stakes. I don't know that I agree on what the stakes could be that you're using as examples, but that's neither here nor there.
I mean, yeah, well,
they indicated that the stakes will be like, we work for the CIA now. We're not our own bosses.
I feel zero threat from that. I feel zero worries.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, I wasn't saying that they delivered on that, but that seemed to be what they were indicating they were headed towards. They didn't do it in that episode. I agree with you.
Yeah. Well, we'll see. Hopefully there'll be something in there.
I'm going to make an untoward example, which I don't always do. There was a girl I dated once in Austin.
Was it in 1990?
And we broke up. And then, we kind of got back together not too far after. I think it was 97. Anyway, so when we got back together, it was comfortable. That was her complaint. I was like, that's nice. It's nice to be comfortable, to be familiar. And she's like, it's comfortable. We're done.
I've already seen the script. I know how it plays out.
And I think that's what's going on here is, to me, like having Archer back is like, all right, no, this is not blowing my mind. This is not the best Archer ever. I'm not like raving about it, but it was an Archer that I hadn't, I haven't got to spend any time with Archer. I got to spend some time with my friend Archer. Fine. But you're also pointing out that's comfortable. I only got a few hours that I can spend on TV watching, and I need it to blow my mind. Right.
To be honest, this is what kind of scares me about seeing new episodes of Always Sunny in Philadelphia. I'm worried that it will be comfortable the way this is comfortable. I want to
Always
believe...
Sunny is never comfortable. Unless you're comfortable
comfortably
on a really
uncomfortable
lumpy bed.
That's a good point.
But it might be the same bed.
It's like I don't want to be able to predict the jokes before they come in. I want to be surprised. The heart of all great comedy is surprise, right? So... I don't know. I wish for surprise, and I got fewer surprises this go round than
I think Gadawag has summed it up well in the chat room. He said, we're not so raven about it.
That wasn't very raven.
Not very raven.
Hey, man, speaking of things that I might not have been really raven about, man, what is it with TV this week? Tom, I'm not thrilled with Marco Polo, episode 5.
Marco Polo, episode 5. Remind me what happened.
I mean, well, first of all, you would think, okay, I'm going to describe it to you, and you're going to be like, oh, yeah, of course that happened. And if you and I worked in an office together and we were talking about Joe in accounting, you'd be like, oh, my God, this is the most dramatic thing I've ever heard. In episode 5, the things you can't remember include Marco Polo deciding on and administering the punishment to his father, Kublai Khan getting almost assassinated.
Oh, right. He spends most of the episode passed out.
Yes. There were assassins. They tracked down the assassins. There was a crazy drug-fueled opium trip in which case someone...
Oh, right. The hashishin.
Yes, that's
yeah.
right.
Well, they go to buy some hash.
The episode was called Hashishin, as a matter of fact. Okay, the fact that
he sees himself, and he's like, "Whoa, that's trippy."
Yeah. Okay. I just described all of that to you, and you spent the whole time being like, "Oh yeah." Do you know why you said "Oh yeah"? Because it was so boring that you had already forgotten about it, and it took.
Here's the biggest problem: we didn't
see
Benedict Wong for the entire show.
Benedict Wong is
Benedict Wong
Kublai
plays
Khan.
Kublai Khan.
Yeah.
I'm making Tim Watson's request come true. He's like, can you guys give some credit to Benedict Wong? He's a brilliant actor, and it's worth looking into his other performances. And I agree. Just from this one performance that I know from him, he's brilliant, and that may be another reason. He is why Benedict Wong is why I'm watching Marco Polo still, because the Kublai Khan scenes are fantastic, largely because of him.
At this point, I'm going to confess that I'm not so much watching it, so much as not giving up on it yet. I suppose the two are technically synonymous,
Yeah,
but I feel like I'm doing more the latter.
I don't want to be a hater on it. There's lots of good things about it still, but man, I mean, you talk about your expectations. This one's not comfortable. This is not new. This is new. This is not familiar. And I should be feeling like I want to visit Shangri-La. I want to visit Kublai Khan. I want to be along with Marco Polo for the ride, and I'm not feeling that. That's the biggest problem.
Yeah.
The Blue Princess tried to get him killed, right? Marco Polo?
Maybe.
Or something. Yeah. Palace intrigues happening.
Everybody tells him, he goes off. He's like, an assassin? Let me decide I'm suddenly an ace detective.
Well, that part actually is one of the few things that made sense to me, which is like, you guys, you Mongols can't just ride in. They'll all scatter. You'll never find them, right? I'm passable. I'm a weird foreigner. That's the kind of person that usually goes to that place. Let me do that. I did actually like, now that I'm remembering it, I liked the little bonding scene with the warrior that accompanied him as his bodyguard.
I'll tell you what, the only character that I feel like is consistently awesome to watch are two characters. First of all, Kublai Khan is one. Thousand Eyes is gobbling up the scenery on every single thing. I don't really feel the threat of the Chancellor over in China.
No. And here's, again, it's coming back to me. We open with a fantastic fight scene.
Yes.
It should have been, right?
Amazing.
Why am I not blown away by that? And I even felt like I was cringing. I was ready so now Marco Polo is going to be a brilliant fighter. I thought they walked the line pretty well of plausibility that he kind of cowers over by Kublai Khan most of the time.
Yes, absolutely. Man, it's even the way they revealed, I think they could have gotten me deeper in if Marco Polo went on this journey and helped solve the mystery of who attacked Kublai Khan. And if instead, unfortunately, he comes back not at all transformed. And Kublai Khan asks, so anyway, you remember last episode we ended with me asking you how we're going to punish your father. What's your answer? And he comes back with this wimpy answer that's like, oh, I was still kind of hoping like last episode that you would, just let him go. And he's like, what? No, we don't
do that here.
It's like I would have preferred to have seen a transformed Marco Polo, right? He should have gone on this hero's journey, right? Where he goes out, he solves the mystery, he does the hashish, he looks at the symmetrical kaleidoscope boobies and comes back and is just like, I belong in this court and I know how to solve my father's crimes, and then stabs him. That was an almost nice moment, but something about the pacing of the directing of it, just like after the sizzle on the hand, it's like you just knew. He's like, oh, it's going to be Marco, right? What a surprise.
Yeah, it shouldn't have been like, well, I was kind of hoping you'd give him mercy, Kublai Khan. Like, he should know Kublai Khan well enough to be able to ask that question in a way that won't just be dismissed, which is what happens. Or he should know, like, well, I know what's coming.
Yeah.
And so like you said, that's weird.
Somebody needed to transform and nobody transformed. It was as though it was a waste of an hour. It's like nobody changed.
Yeah,
Marco Polo continued to be a
right.
wiener.
You feel like he's changing. He had this whole drug experience, right?
Yeah.
And he's learned these great secrets. And then he comes back and acts exactly like he did at the beginning of the episode, which is like, I can kind of defend things, but not a lot.
Well, and he can do that. He can come back unchanged if he now has resolve or something. But instead, he comes back unchanged.
That would be a little change, right?
Exactly. And he still has no resolve. He's like, well, please let him go. No. All right.
I thought maybe because, I did all this stuff.
Yeah.
It's like a kid with their father, like, but I cleaned up the yard. Why am I still grounded for, staying out late?
Dark Redeemer in the chat says, I wish Marco Polo would transform into an interesting character.
I think we would too.
Look, all right. So, everybody says that we need to hold on through episode 6, so it's like we'll continue to watch.
Yeah, but some of them said that about episode 3.
They said that about episode 3, but then even as we were praising,
need to hold on until the end of the series, and then maybe you'll still like it.
I don't know. It's like
we'll keep watching it. We'll keep watching it, but we'll be honest.
The motivation can't just be because that's the motivation for everyone. Because now it's time for the ninja fight scene. Because now it's time for the horrifying breaking of a child's toenails or toes. It's because it's time for can't be the motivation for everything in your show.
12 o'clock, time for a ninja fight.
Ah, jeez.
Like clockwork. Well, things worked better in ancient China than they do today. Things just worked on a schedule like that. We should admire that.
All right, make me believe in good storytelling again. Tell me that the Shield was good.
The Shield episode 6, season 4, called Insurgents, where Vic and Captain Rawlings strike a deal with the DEA. Now, I felt like this was going to get real interesting because this is bringing Vic another step closer to the money train investigators that he shouldn't have been. You also know that Shane is the one providing intel to Antoine. And if the DEA catches Antoine, Shane's going down and Shane's on the team. And Shane is having a real hard time figuring out how to subvert things for Antoine. Antoine's holding his feet to the fire.
Now, real quick, Antoine had previously been in a coma or whatever. He's out of that now, or...
Antoine's never been in a coma.
Wait, who am I thinking of?
I don't know. Nobody's in a coma.
No. The guy, the dude is who?
Nobody's in a coma in episode 6.
All right.
There are no coma people. Antoine is the leader of the drug gang.
Okay,
and he's paying Shane. And
I am thinking of the guy the mole that they injected into the strike team. What was his name?
Oh, from last season.
Yes.
Yeah, he's not around. He hasn't been around all
He just sort of vanished off the story at this point.
We don't know.
Got it. Okay, all right. So Antoine is one of the guys that's been...
Antoine's the leader of the Black Tar heroin gang.
Got it.
Who's setting himself up as the, man of God. We have a great scene where Captain Rawlings has to search a church based on a tip that Vic beats out of somebody that Shane was trying to prevent from happening. And they go to the church. This is, by the way, I skipped a part of the story, though. It's important, is the DEA says, if you screw this up, we're out of here. And Shane, without them knowing it, screws it up by tipping them off and then them leaving the factory so that the DEA agent is like, you've got a mole. And they're like, no, we don't have a mole. What are you talking about? Which they do. They have Shane, but they don't know it. And so the DEA backs out. And I'm like, oh, well, that was an interesting story. I thought that was going to be more pressure. But then they have to go to the church based on a tip that Vic gets out of a guy. They go to the church. The pastor is resistant. So, again, more bad PR. And you even have Julian now saying, we shouldn't have broke the glass on the church. And they're like, what are you talking about? We found the black tar heroin in the candles. He's like, it just wasn't right. He's like, today. He's like, what if we hadn't found it, though? That tip wasn't that fulfilling. So now you've got Julian having doubts about Rawlings' plan. You have Rawlings continuing to build up a stack of bad PR and just skating ahead by winning, the day every time. So that bill's going to come due soon. And you've got Vic now discovering the truth about Shane because he distrusted him so much he put a dash cam in Shane's car. And now they know the real story at the very end of the episode.
There are two elements that you're going to get to watch grow. And again, it's I am on the sidelines cheering for your watching this, and it's difficult for me to not. I want to be careful and not say things that'll spoil your experience. But I don't think it'll be a surprise to you to find out that you are continuing to watch the acceleration of Shane's descent. From here on out, the show could be called The Increasingly Poor Decisions of Shane Vendrell, because you are just going to watch him go farther and farther down this path, which, again, I don't think that's a surprise to you, right?
Well, basically, Shane is trying to do what Vic was doing without being as good at it as Vic and without the ethical boundary. I mean, Vic has a very loose ethical boundary, but he has one. Shane doesn't seem to have one.
The other element that I love about this season is seeing how Glenn Close can be a mirror image of Michael Chiklis in so many ways, but with a tiny pivotal distinction in that Glenn Close actually cares about doing good and doesn't give a fig about what people think of her. Vic Mackey is the exact opposite. She's in that edge, in that fight between the two. She would rather do what's right and be thought bad of, whereas Vic Mackey, not so much. He is very aware of his public image.
No, I mean, I totally agree with what you're saying. At the same time, Vic doesn't care what a lot of people think of him, and he thinks that he is doing good. He thinks, and so if people don't approve of his methods, he doesn't care. So there's a little bit of an overlap in the Venn diagram, which is, I think, why Rawlings is able to bring him over to her side. And she is winning him over his loyalty to Shane at this point.
Well, but also, as an outsider's view, Shane's like extraordinarily bad at doing his Shane job. Like, yeah. He's making some colossally bad decisions.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And the other thing that went on in this episode is the continuing tension between Wagenbach and Wims. That bores me. It really bores me. It feels like a bad cop subplot got polluted into the Shield mix somehow, because it's just, I'm like, yeah, I believe that she would be mad at him, but it just feels stiff. On the other hand, there's a Wagenbach plot element that surfaces this time, which is very intriguing, and it's probably one that you can't comment on because I'm assuming it's going to play out over the next few episodes. But so Vic's daughter is dropped off at the station because the nanny has to go, I think, to a wedding or something, or pregnant. I think like maybe her niece is having a baby. Anyway, the uniform that's assigned to watch Vic's daughter has to leave, and so Wagenbach doesn't know where Vic is, takes the daughter to Vic's ex-wife at the hospital, and there's a little moment there where he asks her out to dinner.
Yeah, where there's a bit of a hitting on Vic's girl.
He's like,
moment.
"Hey, I'm not Vic. I'm everything Vic isn't." And I don't think it's meant to be on purpose. Like, Wagenbach is too genuine for him to be like, I'll steal his girl and make him mad. But there's definitely an undercurrent of he doesn't mind about that. I think he genuinely likes her. And then when he gets back to the station, Vic, who's been making constant cracks and making jokes at Wagenbach's expense, says something, and Wagenbach gives it right back to him about like not being able to keep your wife or something. And Vic is about to like lose it on him, and then Rawlings interrupts him with a piece of business, and Vic gets distracted. But you know that's going to pay off later as well.
So you feel like Wagenbach is too decent of a guy to take pleasure? Certainly.
No. That's a fine point. I definitely think he takes pleasure. I think he's too decent of a guy to do it only for that reason.
Huh. And if
I think Wagenbach wouldn't do it if he didn't like her in some way. He's lonely. He wants somebody. Other things are contributing here. Let's put it this way. I'm not trying to make Wagenbach into an angel, but at the same time, he certainly does not mind that this is going to drive Vic crazy.
I'm gonna dance right here. I'm doing the dance, Tom. At this moment, I remember thinking like, I hope he totally bangs Vic's girl, and I hope he finds out at some point. Like, I actively wanted him to do the petty bad thing of seducing Vic's ex-wife solely for the purpose for Wagenbach to stick it to Vic Mackey, because I that's where
All
I
I'm
was
saying
at that
is
moment.
there are dual purposes here, and maybe none of them are all that high-minded. Part of it maybe he's just lonely, and like, she's a nice girl, like any girl he might run into that he thinks he might have a chance with. So I'm not saying this is like he thinks it's love or whatever, but I'm not disputing with you the absolute truth that the fact that this will drive Vic nuts is certainly satisfactory to him and part of the attraction.
You know what this is? This is the magic key that locks. I'll see you at the end of the season.
Episode 6, season 4. So how many we got in this season? Is it 13? Yeah, it's 13 episodes. So, all right. I'll keep watching them.
Dude, it gets so much faster.
This is
and
the
bigger.
season a lot of people say it drops off, right?
Yeah, no, this is the least popular season by far, which
It is a
I did
great
not
season.
experience it. I thought it was great. I thought it was excellent.
I actually enjoying this season a lot more than seasons 1 and 2.
Just know that just about everybody agrees that it only gets better from here.
Okay, yeah. No, I can see that. I think Rawlings, Glenn Close is amazing. In fact, when Aceveda shows up briefly,
You're like, oh, this
when
guy.
he's like consulting with Julian, and obviously Julian's got his axe to grind now, and Aceveda's a councilman. I'm almost disappointed to see Aceveda, and I don't have any problem with the actor, but that character, I feel like, I'm just sort of done with him.
By the
Rawlings
way,
is everything that he couldn't be.
I'm almost certain you did not remember or recognize this, but you realize Aceveda is in Firefly.
Oh, who is he in Firefly?
He's the guy that says, doesn't look like much, this, that, put it all together, you got a Firefly. And they decide they're going to steal.
Oh, he's the salesman?
No. There's two, I guess, pirates. They go to steal the ship.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're wearing all kinds of crazy stuff in that scene.
He also shows up in. Did you ever watch Sons of Anarchy? I guess not.
No.
Okay, all right, dude. Half the cast of the Shield shows up in Sons of Anarchy.
Sons of Anarchy.
And in fact, at one
whenever
point,
I look at Sons of Anarchy listed anywhere, I always think of it as, people who like the Shield like that, and I guess that's why.
yeah, there's one point when one of the characters is in jail watching TV, and on television they put the Shield.
You've told me this
It's
before,
amazing,
yeah. Because Shane Vandrell's the actor that plays Shane Vandrell's in it, right?
Yes, he shows up as like a kind of a cleaner, but he's a transsexual in it. So he shows up completely in drag. An amazing
Sorry, Shauna
performance.
Vandrell.
Yeah.
It's not the same character. All right. Thanks everyone for watching Spoilerin' Time. There is more Spoilerin' Time coming every week. So if you would like to get access to Spoilerin' Time early, that is not the main perk of being a patron, but it is one of them. We send the link to you early, patreon.com/Cordkillers. Otherwise, it goes in the feed on Wednesdays pretty much every week. So we'll talk to you soon.
Yeah.
Diamond Club hopes you have enjoyed this program.